tell you what a bill that was, huh? Man. I tell you what I would have done before I'd even voted. I came back here and talked to everybody. Asked them what they thought. I'd have talked to our representatives in the municipalities. I'd had forums. I wanted opinions before I'd make a decision like that, because that's going to affect a lot. Because what happened when that was voted for? We lost a ton of money in this state. It hurt. It hurt us across the nation in the liberal type of papers, but it made us look bad. We can't look bad, but we can be smart. It all starts with communication. So before I'd even voted, I'd have came back and talked to you guys, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. Would I have voted for it? Yes. But not before I talked to everybody, made sure we were on the same page, period. So it's all about communication, period.
Well, this is pretty clear cut for me. I support keeping men out of the women's bathrooms. And I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that that is the case. And I certainly have made every effort in Raleigh to make sure that as these left-wing extremists that are tied to Roy Cooper continue to try to go to court and sue us over these things and find ways to get rulings issued that force us to do something that's against the will of the people that elected us, I will do whatever it takes to make sure that we pull the rug out from under those liberal judges and those folks trying to use the court to force us to do the things we don't want to do. And for anyone to stand up here and tell you we didn't need to take some sort of action, they're clueless. They don't know what they're talking about. Because I don't know how many of you know of contractors or folks who might do work with local governments. If you're a plumber, if you have an HVAC business, anything like that, the way Charlotte had that ridiculous ordinance written is even if you were here, if your business was here in Cabarrus County or over in Stanley County, if you wanted to continue to do work in the Charlotte area, you had to change your bathrooms. You had to change how you did business here in Cabarrus County or in Stanley County. You couldn't continue to do the things that you were doing. You couldn't have a bathroom that said a man's bathroom and a woman's bathroom. You had to go and do exactly what Jennifer Roberts and Roy Cooper wanted, and they were able to take their liberal left-wing radical agenda and force it on everybody outside of Charlotte. And that wasn't right. And we had to take a stand, and we did. And now, look, we still have those protections in place. It's not an issue at this point. And if I'm your representative, I'll continue to make sure that we're doing everything to keep these San Francisco liberals out of the bathroom of women. So that's where I stand. Thank you.
I voted for House Bill 2. Let me tell you something. We didn't have time to come back and talk to people about it. We weren't given that kind of time on it. And, you know, you can't talk to 80,000 people. It's just not done, especially when you don't have the time. But I heard from plenty of people about it. I heard from people who had men walk in on their daughters and mothers and wives in women's restrooms. It was happening. And the thing about it was, this is a Dillon Rules state, or Dillon's Rule state, which means that the cities don't have any authority the state government has not given them, and Charlotte overstepped their authority. As Justin was saying, they did not have the authority to tell somebody from Timbuktu that wanted to do business with them that they had to have the same rules Charlotte wanted. And that's exactly what they did in the ordinance that they passed. That had to be curtailed. That had to be stopped. There were also, included in that bill, there were cities that we had heard were going to, on their own, raise the minimum wage. Well, we can have a debate about that, but cities do not have the authority to raise the minimum wage. So it was all about keeping the cities within the bounds of their authority. I voted against the repeal. I argued vociferously against the repeal. The other members who were here can tell you that I did. And I voted no, and I would do the same thing again, because we are not going to let these liberals in Mecklenburg County push us around. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to the next question. And the next question kind of hits home with me, because I've actually had this as the chairman of the Republican Party happen to me this year. This election cycle seems to be the cycle of fake news. With the mass use of social media, gossip and rumors spread like wildfire on Facebook and Twitter, and especially during the election cycle. What story has been circulating about you that you would like to correct? This is a chance for you to set the record straight. Michael Anderson, you're first.
Well, first off, let me address something my opponent just said. I have a way to reach how many people?
About 130,000.
About 130,000 people with this right here. That's how many followers I have with my business. So to tell me you ain't got time, you know what? You make time. Because it's about all of us out here. Period. You make the time before you make something that's going to be that big of a decision. What was the question? All right. No, okay. So, the biggest thing. I am not affiliated with Cabarrus Jobs Now. What the world is that about? Just because I'm in the Rotary Club. Even know what a Rotary Club does? Service above self. Just because I'm in the Rotary Club with Tim Vaughn, Cindy Minette, Steve Morris, doesn't mean I'm with Cabarrus Jobs Now. But I will tell you something, Ron. I want to thank you, sir. I love Mad Hatter. I love Crazy Mike. I'm going to use that. That is genius. I can't believe I didn't think about that. So I thank you. But Cabarrus Jobs Now, I got nothing to do with it. Period.
Next up, Justin Burr.
Thank you, Lanny. As I said in my opening remarks, talking about how we're trying to encourage my mother not to open the mailbox right now, we've had almost $30,000 spent by my opponent so far on negative mail, slanderous negative mail pieces that are completely cooked up, quoting, saying that I sponsored a bill that doesn't exist. All right, we've got 5 members of the legislature in here. I have an opponent who says that, first off, he's quoting NC Policy Watch as a source. You all know what NC Policy Watch is, right? Yeah. Go look it up. Left-wing organization. You've heard of Chris Fitzsimons, that crazy talking head on NC Spin? That guy runs it. Did run it. So let me ask some of my colleagues, have you ever heard of it? This thing says I sponsored the Bail Bondsman Protection Act, and says that I sponsored a bill to make it easier for bail bondsmen to make more money. Have you ever heard of the Bail Bondsman Protection Act? Nope. Any of you? Nope. Have you ever seen me sponsor a bill for bail bondsmen? No, sir. Never have. And my opponent has dropped over $30,000 in negative mail. He even says in here, this piece says that I'm helping terrorists. You ever know me to stand up on the floor and help terrorists? I mean, what kind of human being puts this stuff in mail pieces and says this kind of garbage? And then let me tell you, what does he quote as the source for these articles? You know, normally if you cite something, you cite the actual article. But instead, he cites the Wilmington Star News, October 5th, 2011. So we called the New Hanover Public Library. They did a search of that paper, the entire paper from that day. Couldn't find any article with my name in it. The words bail bondsman, the words bondsman, any of that, anything about a legislative bill. They couldn't find any before that or after that. It's total garbage, and it's a shame that my opponent is willing to lie and buy his way, attempt to lie and buy his way to the General Assembly.
Next up, Ray Pittman.
I'm not real sure how to answer that because I don't pay any attention to that junk, you know? I don't look at the newspapers. I mean, that's a waste of your time, like Mark Twain said. I mean, he said it first. I didn't know he'd said it when I said it. But I quit taking newspaper because they cut it down to 3 days a week and wanted to charge me twice as much. But later on, before I ever ran for office, I realized that, why take a paper? It's a conscious choice between the risk of being uninformed and the certainty of being misinformed. Mark Twain said it a little differently, but he said the same thing. And so I don't bother with that stuff, and I don't know what's being said about me unless somebody else tells me, and I keep telling them, don't tell me. I don't need to know it. I just need to keep doing the job I'm doing and not worry about this stuff. Amen. But as I mentioned earlier, I have heard some stuff because it's been said in the forum before about me being ineffective. I think I've addressed that. I got more I can say on that if you want to hear it. And then this, I think it's been insinuated that I'm a racist. Let me tell you, I may run out of time, but when I was 11 years old in the 6th grade, they were just starting to integrate the schools. I was a little outcast because I was from the wrong side of the river and was having to go to a city school. And in the 6th grade, we only had 5 black kids in the whole 6th grade. I didn't have any in my class. But one day out on the playgrounds at recess, there was 10 white boys that surrounded this little black kid, nice little kid, no threat to anybody, and were pushing him around, calling him nigger and tar baby and worse things that I won't repeat. I broke through the circle. I got face to face with the biggest boy. He was about that much taller than I was. I said, you don't touch him again unless you go through me. And of course, I got branded bad for that and all, but I don't care. Let me tell you something. I've been fighting bullies like that all my life, and I'm still doing it in Raleigh. I'm fighting for you. I'd appreciate it if I can keep doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, man. I want to tell you a little bit about politics and not being a politician. If you don't have pretty thick skin and you don't want to get called names, you better not get in it. I started about 8 months ago going around talking to fire departments, to city municipalities, to VFW huts, you name it, I've been there. From the day I started, even though it hadn't announced yet, I was a liberal Democrat, and I was a rhino. Now, I've got copies over there of my voting record for the last 10 years. I voted in every Republican primary, every Republican general election for the last 10 years. Every time Justin ran, he came and asked for me to support him, and he came and asked for me to give him money. And I did every time. I never gave a dime to anybody that was running against Justin Burr and any of the 5 times that he's ran. All that's public information. There's nothing bad about it. But immediately when I decide to do what's constitutionally my right to run for an office, then I'm the biggest, baddest son of a gun in Stanley County. And I forgive Justin for all that. I don't hold any bad thoughts or, I shake his hand every time I see him. But it's a little foolish, people, to just because you run against somebody to start calling you names. I don't have any intentions of laying down and getting my good name taken advantage of. I'm going to fight back every time. I'll fight the bullies too.
As we all know, there have been some mass shootings in this country, some of them done by folks who have mental health issues. How would you deal with what many call a mental health crisis in this country? Would you want expanded facilities and programs? If so, how would you pay for that? And would you want laws regarding involuntary commitment changed? Justin?
Thank you for that question. That is an issue that I'm passionate about. And from the day that I made it to the General Assembly in 2009 and was appointed to serve on the Health and Human Services Committee, and then under Speaker Tillis, I got appointed as chair of the Health and Human Services Oversight Committee and the Health and Human Services Appropriations Committee, worked to fix a lot of our issues with mental health in North Carolina. And we're in much better shape today than we were 10 years ago. but we're still not where we need to be. And when we took the majority, it was amazing. Democrats who claimed to be so passionate about that particular issue had allowed us to get in the red, hundreds of millions of dollars into the red on mental health spending. They were behind. They were overspending and under budgeting, and we fixed that. We fixed that for our state psychiatric facilities. We made sure that our psychiatric facilities were up to date. Where we had empty beds and we had the capacity to add, to make additional investments, we did that to make sure that we had the services we needed at those state facilities. But we understood that you can't have everyone, you can't house every mental health patient in need of services at a state psychiatric facility. You have to have local beds. I worked with Senator Pate. He was a co-chair of a committee that worked to develop additional three-way beds, to develop the telepsychiatry program, to make sure that we were expanding that so that we had services in rural North Carolina, so that we had the three-way bed contracts where we have local psychiatric beds in rural communities, in areas outside of the state psychiatric hospitals. Because as I said, you can't house everybody there. So this is an issue that is important. And while the Democrats sliced the number of state psych beds and sliced the number of three-way bed contracts we had, we've worked to dramatically increase it in Raleigh. Something, of course, I'm sure you're all not shocked at all that the media won't report on, of one of the many, many good things we've accomplished.